Hi everyone, I'm going to go over a little bit more about assignment number 1. This will be your organizational capacity assessment. This assignment number 1 is due in week 2 and is worth 15% of your grade. So your task for this assignment will be to examine the organization for which you will write an eventual program and grant proposal for this class, and to determine the capacity of the organization to seek new funding to expand the services through a grant. The majority of the content for this assignment will be descriptive information. So you're going to be gathering information and presenting the information that you gather in order to describe the organization, its components, and its capacity. You're not going to be presenting a lot of critical information about the organization that you may or may not find. As I discussed in the As I discussed in the assignment overview video, hopefully by now you have chosen an organization. Now you can choose any organization that you would like to. It will be easiest and most meaningful if you select an organization that you have a connection to. So this could be a nonprofit organization, a government agency that you're connected with, one that you've done volunteer work, that you have experience with prior, that you're doing your field placement with. It can be any organization that you feel like you may be able to strongly connect with and be able to investigate further in order to do this assignment. It will be most helpful if it's an organization that is somewhat smaller or more manageable. If you happen to be assessing an organization that is a large organization, what you'll want to do is provide an overview of the larger organization, discuss the mission and vision and objectives of that larger organization, and then break it down, narrow it down into a more narrow focus on a particular unit or department within that organization where you could eventually do a program proposal for within the time provided for this class. So the information that you are going to provide for this organization can be gathered from any source that you can access. Those could be online resources, it could be brochures, annual reports. Search the organization's website to uncover its annual report, its funding reports. All of the information that you need is probably available on the agency's website if it is a more kind of larger or long-standing organization. But you're going to want to find what is out there about that organization. And of course, you're going to want to cite all of the information that you find properly with using APA format. So for this paper, you're going to use headings for each of the 4 sections, and I'm going to go over each of those 4 sections and the questions that you will need to address for this assignment in more detail in the following slides. You're not going to include an introduction or conclusion. You will answer each question in complete sentence using paragraph format. You're not going to just answer the questions in bullet form. I want you to use paragraph and complete sentences. You're going to be using data. As I mentioned, that this will be an assignment where you are presenting information that you gather. So you're going to be presenting specific data, not really interpreting a lot of the information that you provide. There are a couple of questions that we will get to in a minute that ask for your analysis about the capacity of the organization, but the majority of this paper is presenting very factual information. You're going to address each question even if you don't have the information, or the information does not apply to that organization, or the organization doesn't have what is being addressed in the question. You want to specifically answer that. For example, if you are asking about whether the organization has a strategic plan and it does not have one, you will want to mention that. Don't skip any questions. And as I mentioned before, you're going to definitely want to use APA format for your in-text citations and your reference page. So section 1, as I mentioned, this assignment is divided into 4 sections, and you will provide a a title for each section and then subheaders for each of the questions that you're addressing. So section 1 will be description of the organization. So you're going to go into what the name of your organization is, what the mission and vision of the organization, what its goals and objectives are. You're going to describe whether it's governmental, whether it's a public institution, whether it's private, is it nonprofit, is it for-profit, what kind of nonprofit it is, whether it's faith-based or whether it is from a business model. You're going to describe the origins of the organization, where it came from, and how it currently functions. You're also going to describe whether the organization has a strategic plan and whether it has outlined its goals for the future for its programs. In section 2, existing structure and services, you will describe the history of the organization. You'll describe what the client population or populations that the organization serves are. You're going to describe an outline of the services and programs that the organization provides or aims to provide. This is the section where you'll also describe the administrative structure of the organization. And this is pretty important as you get into further sections of the program proposal, because you may need to address certain systems that are in place within the organization's administrative structure. Many organizations have available the organizational chart, so you'll want to dig around in the information about the organization or in its program brochures, or if you're already within the organization, you can ask for this information of an organizational chart. And if it is available, you'll want to provide that. You'll also want to provide information about how many staff members work at the organization, and if there are a lot of departments and you're focusing on a larger organization, you may want to provide an overview of how many staff work at the organization. For example, I work at Johns Hopkins and we have over 20,000 employees within the institution. But if I were focusing on this organization for a grant, I would want to just focus on our social work department within my particular organization, where there are only 11 of us. So I would focus more in on our department in order to discuss a program proposal for the work that we do, and I would focus on the smaller department. In section 3, you're going to discuss the relationship of the organization to its environment. And here is where you're going to provide information about the organization within the community where it is situated. So what niche does this organization or particular program fill in the community? You're going to talk about whether there are other organizations in the area that also provide these same services. Here's where you may start to get into some more analysis. What similarities and differences do you observe in the demographic composition? And by this we mean age, race, income, gender, education, socioeconomic makeup of the clients at the organization and the staff at the organization. So here's where you'll look at whether staff of the organization is representative of the clients that it serves, or if it is very different. And then you'll also discuss whether or not there are collaborating organizations or agencies that your organization works with in order to provide services. Does this organization provide services in an isolated way where it's the only one doing this work and working kind of independently in order to achieve its purposes? Or does it participate in a large coalition? Does it participate with other entities? Does it necessarily collaborate with other organizations in order to provide services? And then section 4 will be your analysis of the organization's functioning and its adaptation, whether any adaptation is needed in order to meet its goals. So in this section, you will discuss how the organization's programs are funded. You're going to list funding sources by the program. So here's where you'll identify if it's primarily funded by government, whether you have independent or private donors, whether you are looking at programs that are funded by philanthropic organizations or, grant funding. You're going to look at the strengths of the organization and assess its capacity to develop a new program. So here's where you'll look at whether the structure that you presented earlier, the administrative structure, or the sustainability of the funding, whether it has set up a foundation within the organization to be able to support any new program, or whether the organization is kind of operating at its total capacity and can't really do much more. And that will help you identify whether that's a need that can be built upon for the rest of the assignments. And then finally, you're going to describe whether there are any current challenges facing the organization. That may be staff challenges, that may be training needs, that may be kind of precarious funding needs, any challenges that face the organization going into the future, because as you progress in the course of these assignments, you will be addressing whether these challenges present something that you can propose to improve upon. So that is your organizational capacity assessment. You will use these elements that you present in this going forward in your other program proposal parts, which are assignments 2, 3, and 4. If you have any questions about this assignment, please don't hesitate to contact me. You'll also have the opportunity to use this information going forward in some of your discussion forums. So enjoy this assignment and do be in touch if I can help you clarify anything about it. Please see the rubric in your syllabus about how it will be graded. Each section is graded independently, and an additional grade at the end will reflect overall writing and usage of words and APA citations and your ability to follow the format.